talk about entertainment. I want to talk
Right,
about
of
the
course.
distractions.
I mean, I have a
because
page that I monitor, so.
Yeah, it's good to distract yourself. Like, you can't live in that shit. Otherwise, you'll go fucking crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I think I do, because I do spend a little too much time in that end of the pool.
Yeah.
I don't have cable.
Too much of anything.
Yeah, I mean, variety is the spice of life.
Yeah.
And you should really try to branch out and do as many different things as you can. You know, I mean, I like to play drums. I like to play golf. I like to read about what's going on. You know, I'd like to start recording some music out here and come out and start making some noises and stuff. But like at the moment, I really need a fucking job.
Yeah, I know, man. You got to have some money, man. You got to have the moolah.
I'm just waiting
to be able to live.
Waiting on the on the Chrysler warehouse to fucking get back to me. I took my piss test. I took my physical.
Yeah.
Everything like
Car parts,
I'm just now I'm just waiting on them to. I did that on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
They said by Thursday the result should be in, which means I'm not going to hear anything for a week.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's a giant corporation. They move at a glacial pace.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's been the better part of 2 months that I've been going through this with them. I played phone tag with the girl in their HR department for 2 weeks just so she could confirm my phone number.
Right.
It's like...
Well, my brother actually finally got a line on something locally. At least he doesn't have to make the trek down to 2 hours away from where he lives currently right now. And luckily it's about 45 minutes away from where he lives, maybe even less than that. So, and it's been a process because it is a government job.
Right.
I'm not going to name it, of course, but
not unless you want to make your brother famous.
And he's had to, yeah, right. He was telling me everything about it. I mean, as we were going into dinner this evening to celebrate my father's 76th birthday.
Hey, here's the Pop.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Pop.
Yeah.
I love that dude.
Yeah.
I love seeing him out at the golf course, all fucking happy and giddy and just living his life. Good,
yeah.
God bless him.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's going through a process, and it took about a month or so for them to get back in touch with him, and he's going through all these things, security checks, this, that, and the other. And it looks like he's probably most likely going to be ready to begin that employment, I think, once he goes through clearance. Check. We have clearance.
That's why I was laughing.
Once he goes through that and he's accepted or whatever, then he'll be fully on and be into the system there. So hopefully he'll get that.
Where exactly is it? I can cut it out.
Very long time. Well, it's down in Virginia.
All right.
I mean, very close to us. So
you're such new.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. And hopefully something will break loose here in about a week or two. And
good for him, man. I'm happy for him.
Yeah,
I'm happy for him.
Long time coming. My God, the place he worked at least 20 years, maybe a little more. So, I mean, he's had job security, of course, but be able to do something a little bit closer to home. It's less wear and tear on the car.
No, not as much time. Away.
Gas has already kind of spiked a little bit.
Yeah, it does that every summer.
But true, it does. So that would be a good thing. And I'm kind of happy for him in that respect. Of course, I'm still, kind of out right now because of my wife's ailment and this, that, and the other,
Yeah, but, doing the old Nurse Bob.
but it was a necessary thing because, I mean, it turns out that, there's only so much you can do with one arm. She can't drive yet. She can't even lift the iced tea pitcher out of the fridge. So
good thing she's got another arm. And a nurse.
Right.
Nurse Bob.
So I've been doing that, which, that's fine. It's given me a lot of time to
so you've been
focus on other things.
Relegated to a waitress, basically.
Yeah, right. Nursemaid. But that's okay.
Wet nurse?
Yeah, right. Wet nurse. I wish.
No. I could use a wet nurse.
But anyway.
Well, enough about how much the world sucks. Let's talk about some have-me junk, man. What the fuck are you listening to?
Oh, my God. It is Who month for the month of June. It is the Who.
Love the Who.
It is the Who. It's everything Who. I mean, it's Who Are You and Who's Next and Who by Numbers and I don't know why, but for whatever reason.
Was this every June or
no?
No.
This is not every. This is unprecedented. This is
got really into it, huh?
Crazy explosion. It could have something to do with the fact that there was a new release from the Fillmore East that was resurrected years ago from 1968. Finally came out last month. And I acquired it last week when I was out of town for a bit, and we had gone up north for a little bit to
see some family, right?
To my wife's stomping grounds up there in Jersey.
Visit the family back east.
Yeah, and picked up Fillmore East 1968 double set, and I've just been on a tangent, and I've shared it on Facebook and through my page. Gotten some good feedback from
what's your page again?
Sonic Bob's Music Corner. So please check it out. It's on Facebook, folks.
You have a website too, right?
And I do have a website for my album reviews.
All right. So what's that website?
And that is iamsonicbob.com.
Sonicbob.com. You got the .com on that.
That's right.
God, mighty. That's
through Wix.com, mind you, Wix.com.
But you own the website, sonicbob.com.
But yes, we kind of lease it through them. But yes.
In case you don't know, everybody, that's Sonic Bob over there. I'm Phil Drummond.
That's right.
Talking to you about fucking whatever strikes our fucking fancy, which happens to be the Who.
That's right. It's the Who.
This time of the year.
That's right.
This time of recording.
For whatever reason, the band themselves really didn't form. They actually formed around May of 1964. All four original members of the band. Keith Moon was the last one to be connected to the group. Pete Townsend and John and Whistle actually went to school together in Acton, outside of London.
Acton.
Town called Acton. And they actually met up
Acton. Damn, they killed him.
High school. Met up in high school together back in the day. And John and Whistle actually was into guitar playing, but his fingers were too large. So he built his own bass.
Had a lot of girlfriends, though.
Come to find out, well, that's probably why they called him the Ox. That was his nickname in the band, the Ox.
Yeah. Sporting a huge package on, I guess.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Fingers like that. Fingers like tree trunks.
Well, God rest him. He did pass away in Vegas with a stripper. That's what happened to him when he was on tour. The last time that he was playing live with them, that was around 2003, I think.
Yeah.
2004, something like that.
I remember that.
And he died. Yep, he was binging on cocaine, I believe, with a stripper. And
God bless him.
Yep, that's how he went. That's how he went. Well, I mean, nobody's for sure if he had cocaine, but I mean, I could imagine.
Living the dream. Living the dream. God bless him.
Yep. Talented player, man.
No doubt.
Else,
No fucking doubt. Dude was super talented.
Yep. And he was probably one of the best bass players. I mean, that's the thing. And Whistle used all 5 fingers when he played the bass.
Why are you putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable?
Yeah, right.
And Whistle. Everyone else I've ever heard say his name says Entwistle.
Yeah.
You're Entwistle.
John and Whistle. Yep. John and Whistle.
I love how you constantly just mispronounce everyone's last name. It's fucking hilarious.
John and Whistle. Not Entwistle. Well, there's no apostrophe in there. I mean, come on, man. Entwistle? No. John and Whistle.
What is he, a tree in the Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, right. hey, he was known as the tripod back in the day. So,
of course.
Because of the appendage.
Yeah.
Gene Simmons, fuck you. You will never be as good as John and Whistle.
I don't know what it is with Gene Simmons, but I've actually heard a lot of fucking bad stories about him of late.
It happens every couple of years.
Him acting like an asshole to people.
Well, he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's a cunt.
I mean, he did, actually, his last solo album was called Asshole.
Well, at least he named it right.
So he, called it out on his own self.
Where were we? Oh, yeah.
For whatever reason, The Who. Yeah. For whatever reason, The Who, I don't know why, but I've just, completely opened the floodgates. I've been sharing all kinds of stuff on The Who. I even changed my cover photo on Facebook and my profile picture to Who-related pictures. So, it's...
yes.
It's a glorious celebration for whatever reason.
I've always liked the stuff that they have in the middle of their catalog, the later stuff with Keith.
Right.
Like the early stuff, yeah, there's some good stuff in there, no doubt. But I really liked when they got into doing big story stuff,
like Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy.
More conceptual things.
And Quadrophenia.
Yes.
And like those, like those two pieces are just, they're completely without compare almost. Granted, other bands were doing concept pieces, but I mean, nobody was doing like rock operas.
Not like Townsend was.
No, nobody was doing that shit.
Yep.
And so he cut out a section that was all them. And still to this day, I mean, what do you got? You got what's his face doing the in the closet stuff?
In the closet stuff.
Yeah. What the hell's his name? The R&B guy. Remember South Park was making fun of it. The hell was it?
Barry White?
No. Fuck's sake. I don't know.
In the closet stuff.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I remember Tina Turner being the Acid Queen in the film adaptation of Tommy. She played the role of the Acid Queen. I remember that.
No, this was far more recent. It was like the early 2000s. Right after the whole turn of the century. Who the hell was it? Hold on.
Well, I mean, obviously, of course, referencing the Fillmore East performances, what's unique about the Fillmore East performances, this is just a side note real quick, is the fact that the band started to stretch out. There's actually a jamming aspect on a lot of these numbers on here. Matter of fact, disc 2 is an entire improvisation piece on My Generation.
The R. Kelly thing, Trapped in the Closet. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh, okay.
Did you ever...
Nah.
Dude.
Nah. The only R. Kelly references I remember is Chappelle's show about peeing on people and that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Piss on you. Yeah. That kind of thing.
The Piss on You remix, yeah, it was fucking awesome. Yeah. No, he did this whole thing called Trapped in the Closet, and like it was long, it was epically long, and there was a video for it, and it was like people like his girlfriend was having sex, was cheating on with a midget, and like all this fucked up shit, and it was all like, and the South Park guys made fun of it, and there was all this, and like it was a huge thing. I'm surprised you didn't catch any of that. But
nah.
I mean, we were recording a record when that came out. I forget which one it was. We only made 3, but at some point, like we're just sitting there and we're just laughing our nuts off, and someone would come out of the booth and be like, "What the fuck is going on?" I'd be like, "Dude, check this out!" And we spent a week watching that shit, just be like laughing our asses off.
Yeah,
because we didn't really have much else to do.
Yeah.
But I don't even remember what record we were making when we did it, but all those times kind of blur together.
It's probably the first or second, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think it was the first or second because
maybe
the last
Mind's Eye, maybe the second one.
Yeah, I don't remember which one, but the last one. It's easy to keep the last one separate because we built the studio that we made that one in.
Yeah. Oh no, Eyes Mind.
Eyes Mind.
Yeah.
It's exactly the opposite of
Mind's Eye.
Right. Mm-hmm. And there was a book the thing is, there's a book I was reading at the time, and basically the book was, I don't even know if I still have that book. It was an awesome book, but it was a book of paradoxes. And like some of them were kind of like short stories, some of them were really involved. But it was basically a book about paradoxes, just like a bunch of thought exercises, basically, is meant to really stretch your brain out.
Right.
And I remember because we drove out to Cincinnati from New York City, and all the way out, I'm telling these guys about these stories that I'm reading in this book. And that book sat on the coffee table the entire week while we were out there, and people were reading it, and somebody's like, "So what are we going to call this?" And somebody's like, "The Mind's Eye." I was like, "How about the Eye's Mind?" And they're like, "Ooh," and that kind of stuck.
Right.
So, actually, I ended up naming both of our records. So named that one that way, and then the next one was actually called Perfect World, which was the song that I wrote for that record.
Right. That's pretty cool, man.
Motherfucker.
Got some feedback on?
Who the fuck is texting me at this hour?
Ah.
I guess it is a Saturday night.
That's right. Saturday night. Uh-huh.
Well, let's see.
Yeah.
All right. So, meanwhile, back at the ranch, we were talking about The Who.
Uh-huh.
Or whatever else you're listening to. Is that all you listened to this week? Was The Who?
Basically, well, no, the Kinks have been coming in there too.
Really?
Yeah.
You fucking just love your British bands.
Yeah.
You just love the fuck out of them.
Well, Ray Davies and Pete Townsend, I have to admit, parallel mindsets because they both led both bands.
Mm-hmm.
They were obviously the main composers in both bands.
Mm-hmm.
Pete Townsend actually had a very, very good appreciation for Ray. He was not jealous of Ray. As a matter of fact, he kind of put Ray a little bit on a pedestal, wishing that he could write more like Ray, which I found compelling.
Really?
Because I always thought, he was very, very humble in his appreciation of Ray's efforts, because Ray was also conceptual, especially with Village Green Preservation Society. That came out in '68, which predates Tommy.
Mm.
But then again, Pete was also working on Who's Sellout at that point, which Sellout was kind of a novelty concept. He was basically working up towards Tommy with Sellout. Sellout was kind of like, there's a lot of radio ads interspersed in between the songs and this, that, and the other. I mean, it's a great album to listen to. But it's not as consciously, materialized as Tommy would be. Click.
I do want to share this with you. This was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I had a dream last night that I was hanging out with Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And for all I know, it was at Mar-a-Lago, because we were hanging out at some, it was a hotel, but it was a bar.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost certainly in Florida, and it was on the water. I just remember everything being kind of flat and being right on the water, and there being boats. There's a slip right outside the bar, and we were sitting there drinking or whatever, and it was just it was a good sized bar, but it was empty. It was just he and I sitting there. And I told him that I'd been listening to a lot of his stuff lately, and he's like, oh really? And I was like, yeah. I was like, some pretty good stuff. He's like, who knew?
Yeah.
I was like, fucking everybody, dude. You were famous as fuck for a while.
Yeah.
But it was just the weirdest, and we were just sitting around hanging out, kind of talking about him recording whatever, recording his albums, and it was I don't remember that much of it. It was extremely brief.
Yeah.
But it's just hanging out with Rodney, dude.
Yeah.
Something I never got to do except in a dream.
Right.
But that was
That's cool, man.
that was a good way to wake up.
Yeah.
I guess that's why my day was so bad. Because my dreams were so good.
It's going to be a bad day when you're dreaming about Rodney. But.
Nah, never going to be a bad day when you dream about. Well, and just he was actually really humble, but still kind of cracking jokes.
Yeah.
Exactly how I imagine it would be to hang out with him.
Yeah.
Only there was no cocaine. Otherwise, I'd have woke up.
Yeah, right.
You're doing cocaine in your sleep.
Yeah, Robin Williams. Yeah.
Speaking of Robin Williams, what's the thing of everybody hanging themselves with scarves of late?
Is that how they found Bourdain?
And that
because I wasn't sure. Well,
and that Spade broad,
Kate Spade's
same thing.
David Spade's sister.
They both found basically the same way, hung with a scarf from a doorknob.
Well, I often wonder, Chris Cornell also hung himself, right? And he suffered from depression. Wonder if they're on the same kind of medication. What if there's a connection there with that medication?
I know the Bourdain was
thoughts of suicide, and Bourdain was a drug addict. I know this before he became, somewhat famous and everything, going through the ranks of working in the restaurant business, and which I'm intimately familiar with.
Yeah, me too, because I've worked as a server. You've worked, I've worked front of house. You've worked back of house.
Yep.
And that's how those places are. I mean, you go in, if you don't show up high, you get high while you're there.
Yep.
Or you drink, you're always at the bar,
it's kind of customary.
Sneaking stuff out, or if you're, I need some wine to cook with. And
there's a lot of bosses that have two different kinds of books going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, actually, Bourdain. There was an interesting article from the New Yorker that was published way back in 1999 that Bourdain had published, and he went on his experience moving through the ranks, starting as a dishwasher and a busboy, and then going through becoming sous chef, and then becoming chef of his own restaurant. And he kind of got into the whole, you know, situation of how the business attracts a certain type of people, and that they, you know, forego the 9-to-5 jobs that most people have a tendency to do, you know, when you go through school as a kid and everything, and you are taught this routine in life. And,
You and I always kind of buck that system.
yeah, exactly.
Which
And
doesn't
that's what he
surprise
was saying.
you.
It
I'm
attracts those people that go against the grain.
yeah, and that's
And a lot of them are criminals. We weren't.
have
but
criminal tendencies.
Yes,
yes,
exactly.
I understand that, but we had that growing up. We were very much always kind of against the grain. I mean, you still are. You don't go to bed. Every
Yeah.
time I don't have a job or anything, and
I'm up late, man.
yeah, me too. Like I've been going to bed between like 3 and 5 in the morning since I haven't been working.
And I've tried to do the regular 8 to 4, 9 to 5, and man, it's just difficult.
Yeah,
for me. It really is.
Hopefully, if I get one of these gigs, I mean, with the post office, it's not going to be like that. But if I get this gig at the warehouse, I'll be like, put me on second or third shift. Don't put me on the first shift. I don't want to be on the first shift.
Yep.
I do my best work. Put me on the second shift. That's where I would do my best work.
Yeah.
And I would. So if I could go to work at 4 and get off at midnight.
And that kind of goes back to my whole, you know, human nature. People are designed to, you know, I mean, yes, you have to have structure. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same structure that everybody else does. But
Yeah.
you got to have, I mean, whatever it is, it works for you.
I mean,
But
I
you have to rely on that schedule, that kind of.
Yeah, I was born at like 2 a.m. So I've always been.
I was born at 4 a.m., so, you know.
Yeah, we've always been late
A little
night
after
people.
4, you know. But,
When you start your day that late.
yeah, right?
Or that early, however you
Exactly.
want to do it. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's it's funny how that works out, actually. Born late, up late all the time.
Yeah.
And you know, I was always like that. Toured with bands, never got to sleep until 4 or 5. Like that was a comfortable thing for me. Not getting up until 10 or 11, or noon or 1.
Yeah.
That's a regular thing for me. Like that, I love being on that schedule. That something about that schedule just feels natural to me. It always has.
I mean, anymore it seems. I mean, at least within the last 6 months or so, you know, 8:30 is usually about my latest time to get up.
Yeah, no, usually that's right in the middle of my sleep. Like the only time I want to see the sun come up is after I've been drinking and fucking all night. That's basically it. I don't want to see. I don't want to. I'm not a morning person. Like I want the morning to be the.
Oh,
end
I'm
of
not a
my
morning
day.
person, but I mean, it still takes me at least an hour or two to wake up. But I'm on day 16 of being tobacco free.
Yes.
No smoking.
Yes, I'm so
With the
happy
cigarettes?
about that for you.
Cold turkey.
Well, that's. I mean, sometimes, and the thing is,
Not using anything.
remember what I told you is like one day you're going to wake up and you're just going to be like, that's it, and
Yep.
you're just going to stop.
Yep.
Was I right?
Yep. You're right, man.
And
Yep.
you just, I don't know what it is. You just decide all of a sudden, and it really was all of a sudden. Like you woke up and you're like, yeah, I'm done.
I mean, I've done it before. I've done cold turkey before.
How long did you make it the last time though?
Every single time, and I got to say, it's been 3 times that I've tried to quit cold turkey. 3 weeks, and after that third week, when I make it right past the 3rd week anniversary of quitting smoking, I light up again. So I still have at least another 5 days or so.
4 or 5 days,
to
yeah.
figure out whether or not. But no, I mean for real this time because of my age.
And the thing is,
I've done it. And that's it. I want to breathe. I want to be able to. I mean, because I know I'm probably going to have complications later, of course.
yeah.
But, you know.
You smoke too long not to.
Yeah, I mean, it's 30 years of this fucking shit.
Yeah,
it's fucking ridiculous.
I mean, I might have problems, and I'd smoked off and on for 20, so.
And you know, besides the fact that I work in kitchens with exhaust, you know, systems not always working right, and this, that, and the other, and, you know, working around carcinogenic smoke from grilling steaks, and, you know, God knows what else.
Steak smoke is
burns,
carcinogenic?
Oh, yeah, man.
Really?
It's smoke. any kind of smoke, I mean, it's...
I
brother.
kind of follow that. All right.
If you don't have the proper exhaust system, we did one time, one restaurant I worked at, the exhaust system crapped out over a weekend. The owner was out of town. Nobody could get anybody to fix it. We had an 80 plate dinner to do for a wedding rehearsal. And we had to do steaks.
Rehearsal?
And we had to do steaks.
80 plates for a rehearsal?
Yep. Steaks.
Holy
we had to put
fuck.
as soon as we put the first steak down, oh man.
Yeah.
We had handkerchiefs over our nose and mouth, like bandits.
Right.
And yeah.
Steak bandits.
Yeah, dude. And oh my God. I mean, and it was the only time in my life I said, I'm glad I was a smoker because it was so bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually.
So if I didn't get cancer from that.
Well, back to the whole quitting.
I mean, I hope I don't. I mean,
back
knock on wood here.
Right.
But.
Back to the quitting of the smoking. Before, when you said you quit, you hadn't convinced me that you really were done. This time is different. Yeah. Just even for me, I can tell that you're like, yeah, no, I'm done with this shit. And you actually feel a little better already just after a couple weeks, right?
Absolutely I do.
Yeah.
Absolutely I do.
And you're like, I know you're probably kicking yourself in the ass, like, why the fuck didn't I do this sooner? I know I did. I know
why.
And even like I had quit for a couple of years at one point and started again. That's what happens when you date a dish rag whore.
Well, it could be part of it.
Yeah, it's
But it's cigarette smoking is the one terminal illness that tells you it's okay. Whenever you light up another one, oh, it's okay. You can always quit tomorrow. Oh, it's okay. Drinking could almost be considered, and now granted, we're not alcoholics.
Oh, not by any means.
But, that could be tied in with cigarette smoking. Same thing. Every drink, yeah, right? Each sip is another, round on the roulette wheel. Place your bets. Like, where are you going to wind up,
I don't drink nearly that much. I don't even drink like you do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a one or two cocktails. Like, most nights when I'm out here drinking, I could, if I stayed up another hour, I could drive home.
Right.
Won't because it's a Saturday.
Well, also, don't want you to get pulled over.
Right. I've thought about it a couple of Sundays. Been out here, I'll be like, it's Sunday night. Nobody's out looking for drinkers tonight.
I don't care if you know cops or not. You know what I mean? Like, because I had a couple of friends out here.
Right. Yeah, I know.
For your brother's wake and everything, and we got a little tipsy, and I was a little concerned about some of these people.
Some of them true.
I
know exactly.
To make sure.
I know exactly about whom you're speaking.
Sure.
Yes.
And he's like, well, I was like, okay, that's fine, dude. I'm just saying, hey.
I know every cop in this town.
I don't want to be. I don't want to be responsible for.
No, so they're grown ass people. They're responsible for their own selves.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I just wanted to throw that out there. I was like, hey, But
I actually came down here and crashed out on this.
A couple of my friends took me up on it, though, which I'm glad they did. I'm glad they didn't travel anywhere else.
Yeah, Chrissy was here that night, and I actually came down here to free up that bed up there.
Yeah. It's funny, though.
It was actually quite comfortable to sleep on.
Our other friend, Mr. Mason.
Yeah.
He actually drove home that night, and his car actually
crapped out on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, the universe being like, just stay where you were, fucker.
Well, just didn't know that,
Yeah, it's funny the way things work out sometimes. Yeah, I'm actually thinking quite a little bit about like synchronicity this week.
Yeah.
Just synchronous events, things that happen like.
Yeah. Not the album, but.
No, although I did cover that album in its entirety once.
Oh, yeah, you guys did a hell of a job, too.
It was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I love doing that. But it's funny because I've become kind of a late sleeper since I've been unable to work here these last few weeks and started looking for other stuff. I've been, as you know, the apartment next door emptied, so I've been painting over there.
Right.
And I've been waking up around 11 o'clock, between 10:30 and 11 every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it is, just in the last couple few months, my eyes are not good early in the day. I need about an hour to unfog my eyes.
You don't have cataracts going or anything, do you?
No, it's just like slinkers and whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, remind me when we go upstairs too. I got to get some of that pink Himalayan off your wife.
Oh yeah, that's right. She bought a whole container of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get a big old scoop of that from her.
2 pounds of it, I think, or something like that, or a pound of it.
Good gravy. What the hell is she using that shit for?
Oh, she got it for cheap. So.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Well,
or at least on sale or something like that.
Salt on sale.
Yeah. Yeah. From Himalayan.
Which is funny because salt used to be money. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Salt used to be money. They used to be, if there was no coin or no gold or no silver or anything, salt was money.
Used as
used as currency. Happened a lot during the Roman Empire. I'm a big history guy.
Yeah.
So if you pique my curiosity with some portion of time, I'm all about it. I know I've recommended to you before that you should be listening to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. Mm-hmm. He has got a couple of series which are fucking phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And I highly recommend it to anybody who even has the slightest bit of interest in history. And even if you don't like history, just like a good story, he makes the shit so fucking interesting. Yeah. He had a 7-part series on the Khans, like he pronounced it Genghis Khan. Genghis or Genghis, however you, but he pronounced it Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan. You know, the whole succession of Khans. Yeah. It was like 7 parts, and each part was about 4 to 6 hours long. I mean, it was fucking incredible. Yeah. Fucking incredible. Huh. And like the whole time you're riveted, just riveted listening to this. And I was driving all the time while I was listening to it. I was delivering beer at the time, so driving up and back, like I would get an episode and a half down on my way up and back. Huh. Whenever I first got into it. Fantastic stuff. Yeah. I mean, just so absorbing and engrossing. I love listening to Dan. Just has a way of making things interesting. He just had a new one come out about capital punishment, hangings, and people being broken on the wheel, and just public executions, basically. Right. Kind of came down through the ages with it. Started with basically how they did it in Rome, the Roman Colosseum. And it was an accepted thing then.
Oh, you mean like I remember watching Caligula and having the heads in the buried in the grounds or whatever inside the Colosseum, and then having the giant wheel coming around and chopping their heads off. Yeah. Well, I mean, there was... That's kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, there was... I mean, I'll not do it justice, but the way he was explaining it was like there were several type of executions. You had political prisoners or prisoners of war who were basically made to fight one another, for sport, for entertainment. Yeah. And, it was always to the death. Then there were plays where someone in the play would die, and, the person would be in the play... And they wouldn't have a large part, but they would have a part in which they died, and they would actually kill them in the play. Right. So that was another way of doing it. And then there was basically the low light was just the straight killings, which was done, he said, at the hour of lunch. So while everyone was out grabbing a bite to eat or whatever, they would just do the straight, like the killings of the runaway slaves and just the lowest of the low.
Like Life of Brian, man. It makes me think of Life of Brian whenever he's there.
Fuck off!
We don't want any of that Roman rubbish.
Biggus. Dickus. Oh, yeah.
The guy that outruns the fucking gladiator with the fucking, he has a heart attack. I'm thinking about having a heart attack. Oh, and the guy's like, I had to throw in some nonsense, man. I'm sorry.
No.
It was getting too heavy, Kimasabi.
Well, I mean, this is basically, we're talking about entertainment. That's what we do. That's what we do. This is how we...
Brian's great, man. I love Monty Python. Oh, my God.
And I actually saw some things. I saw a really good thing with John Cleese since we spoke last. He was talking about what's the big thing now that they call it? Fuck's sake, I'm drawing a blank. Alcohol's working.
Yeah, alcohol.
He was talking about
Let's have another beer.
not the social justice warriors, but he was talking about political correctness and saying what a terrible thing it is that if you can't take a joke, the problem is not the person who is telling the
It's
joke.
back to
The problem
censorship.
is yours.
It's back to censorship, man.
And censorship was a part of it.
Well, actually, that's the whole thing.
It
really is.
When you boil the modern political correctness down to its
It's the crux of the biscuit.
when you boil it down to its essence, yes, the crux of the biscuit, as it were.
Yeah.
As
really
as
is.
per Uncle Frank,
Yep.
that it really is.
Yep.
It really is that.
And it's like, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that. It's like,
No, I can say that. The problem is not mine for saying it. The problem is yours for being recreationally offended because of something that I said, or something that I find funny. You know, if you have a problem with it, then the problem is yours. The problem is not mine. Fuck you. Did you ever hear the Louis C.K. bit about that? He's like, I didn't think he's gay. He's just acting like a faggot.
Right. Right.
He's talking about, and he went down through talking about, he talked about the word nigger, and he talked about the word cunt, and he talked about the word faggot. And then, he ends the whole bit by calling some deer a nigger cunt faggot.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Or what do you call them? Hoof rats? And that's kind of what they are.
Oh, the deer? Yeah.
That's kind of what they are. They're kind of hoof rats.
Yeah.
But they're fucking delicious. That's the one thing I'm going to miss about my brother not being around. He made the best jerky.
Damn good jerky, man. Yep.
God damn, he made the best jerky.
Yep.
And I'm going to have to... I have the... I actually have a copy of his recipe.
Yeah?
For the... Yeah, you want to make some jerky sometime?
I could try.
Because I've got... Well, we should do it with beef.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe we could go into business and make jerky.
Yeah, we could. Couple of jerks making jerky.
We could even call it jerky.
We call it jerk off.
Jerk off jerky?
Jerk off jerky.
Well,
jerk off.
We don't want to put pictures in people's mind. We wanted them to actually eat it.
Yeah, exactly. Got two names. First name's Jerk, the last name's Off.
We got our chick jerk off here.
Yeah,
first of the night.
Yeah. Got Kipper. We got Pepper.
But I mean,
We got light jerky.
we would need some dehydrators.
Jerk light.
But his recipe for jerk, it was the recipe for the marinade.
Yeah.
Which made the jerky. And it made, you had it many times.
Oh, yeah,
fucking
man.
outstanding.
Yeah.
Fucking outstanding.
One year, I think he might have made it a little too peppery or something like that. It was a little too spicy or something, or too salty. Something going on there.
Yeah.
And he admitted it.
Yeah. No,
And I said, man, what the fuck ever, dude? It's all good. Don't worry about it.
and he made two different kinds. And one he would put the red pepper flakes in.
Right.
And one he wouldn't.
Right.
And it was kind of up to him as to which one I got every year because I had 3 kids and a wife who was as big as this fucking house. Jeez. Very large woman. He actually called her Big Mama.
Big Mama. Oh, Big Mama.
Good Lord. I don't know how that woman, I mean, as it is, I'm starting to not be able to see my penis, and that's how I know it's time to stop eating. Yeah, so hence doing the cleansing fast.
Right.
Getting the gunk off of my
I think everybody's got to
rectum
do
walls.
that. I mean, I think everybody's got to do that. Though.
You have, in essence, been fasting for quite a while now.
Me?
A few months. Yeah, that's how you've been dropping weight. You just haven't been eating a lot.
Well,
Basically been fasting.
I mean, surprisingly, quitting smoking and everything, it has been a bit of a struggle, but I've been using cinnamon sticks for the oral fixation.
Yeah.
And cinnamon...
Well, if that was the problem, you should have just come over and sucked my cock.
That's why I married a Jewish woman.
Yeah. She has a penis?
No,
What?
but she doesn't eat pork, man. Come on.
I'll suck the hell out of it. What you want to eat?
Yeah, right. No, cinnamon actually suppresses the appetite.
Oh, really?
Yes, just like coffee does. Yep.
Yeah, that's all I get. All I can drink, water, unsweet tea, black coffee. No, I can't even put any creamer in it.
Cinnamon's good though, man. Cinnamon, use a little, sprinkle some cinnamon somewhere.
I can't. I'm not going to eat anything. I'm not eating anything.
Yeah.
Just it's a cleansing fast, a water fast. You know they have a thing. Did I tell you about the dry fast? Did I tell you about that last time I was talking about this? Dry fast is exactly what it sounds like.
Just nothing.
No water at all. No water, no food for 3 days. You don't take a shower. You don't wash your hands. You don't brush your teeth. You do not come in contact with water. That's a hard dry fast. They have a soft dry fast where you can take a shower and wash your hands, and because you actually do absorb water through your skin. Your skin is a permeable layer.
I don't know if our
and I would not recommend it.
Skeptical about that.
There's people who do it all the time, like the guys in the like in the superhero movies and stuff, when they want to get all like ripped up and like you want to see their six pack and everything. That's what they do. Is they do a dry fast, and it makes everything just kind of pop because all the water's coming off you. You don't have any fat on you. See, like if you're a guy like me, like because what is fat? I was telling Chrissy about this the other day. She stopped by and said hi.
Yeah.
But I was telling her about doing this fast the other day. I was like, at least I'm not doing a dry fast. She's like, a dry fast? You can't do that. She's a nurse, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, you can't fucking do that. I was like, okay, well, think of it this way. What is fat? Fat is basically a hydrocarbon. You know what hydrocarbons are, right? It's a molecularly it's HC. It's H2C. So you got 2 hydrogen atoms and you got 1 carbon atom. So that's a hydrocarbon. So what happens when you do a dry fast is if you have some fat on you, like you don't want to do this if you don't, not at least without the supervision of a doctor or somebody who's has some level of medical training and has done some kind of work with this. But basically what happens is we all breathe, you breathe in oxygen. So you breathe in oxygen. So what your body does if you're doing a dry fast is it takes some of that fat, takes an oxygen molecule, knocks out the carbon and puts the oxygen in there. So your body makes its own water as long as you have some fat on you. And that's how you act, because people who do a dry fast still urinate. They still piss.
Right.
Even having not had anything to drink for days.
Right.
They're like, I don't know where this water is coming from. Your body is making water. Your body can make water.
Right.
It's a survival thing that it's just kind of in us from way back before there were supermarkets and all that other shit.
Right.
That's why, you can walk through the desert for days without water. If you're a fat guy, you can survive quite a long time as long as you keep breathing.
Right. Right.
Because your body will make its own water.
Right.
Now, there comes a point where you burn through that pretty quick, obviously. It's unhealthy to do it for more than 3 days, a dry fast anyway. There's a record of a guy who lived in, what was it, Scotland or Ireland, who was basically morbidly obese, and he didn't eat anything for like 400 days. All he had was water, black coffee, unsweetened tea for like 400 days, and didn't eat a bit of food, nothing, and lost something on the order of like 110 pounds. Over the course of like a year and a couple of months. Right. You need to refresh your beer. You got to go check on that anyway.
Yeah.
Right on. Let's break. Let's break right here.
Break. There's going to be who later. Just want to warn you.
There's going to be what?
There's going to be who later.
Who?
When we go upstairs.
Who? Oh.
Mr. Townsend.
And
Mr. Daltrey.
You'll be playing your Peter, are you?
And Mr. And Mr. and Whistle. And Mr. Moon. And possibly Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones.
Kenny Jones.
Mr. Jones.
That's right. Goddamn Keith Moon, though.
Oh, I know,
that
right?
Son of a bitch. He was an idiot. As both so eloquently declared one night when I was in his apartment all those years ago. We were talking about the Who, and He said, yeah, Keith Moon was an idiot. And I was like, yeah, but,
It was...
Because he was 31 when he died, I think. He was like 31 years old around the time he died. And he was taking this medication to get him off alcohol. And unfortunately, he was drinking on top of it. And I think around the time that he was found, he had like 60 of these tablets in his body.
Jeez.
So I think he might have been trying to kill himself.
Sure sounds like it.
Because if you're not conscious of how much medication you're taking, and you have that much in your system, and no human can actually consume that much.
Well, they said one of my favorite facts about Elvis is they said that when
Well, that was the other thing.
they emptied his stomach at the autopsy, there were so many pills in his stomach that it sounded like gravel hitting the pan into which they were emptying the contents of his stomach. That's how many pills he had in his stomach.
Oh my God.
It's literally full of pills. Literally
That's
full
ridiculous.
of pills.
That's ridiculous.
Hey, it's tough to be the king, apparently.
I mean, and ironically, when we were leaving dinner tonight, for my dad's birthday, we were talking about, well, I had mentioned Anthony Bourdain and
right.
his passing. And my brother brought up Marilyn Monroe and that kind of thing, and that she had overdosed on a lot of medication apparently that was prescribed. And yes, I know, but that's what he said.
There's a lot of lot of gray in that story, an awful lot of gray.
But I brought up Elvis, and I pointed out the fact that he had a lot of yes people around him. People did not tell him no, because he's the king and all this nonsense. And he believed it, of course, and not believing your own mortality. It's back in those days, yes. Like I said, you didn't have Betty Ford, because she was still drinking like a fish, and she finally had that moment of clarity sometime in the 80s to open up her own clinic,
Was it as late as the 80s? I thought it was in the 70s.
No, I thought it was early 80s when she started that, but I could be wrong. I mean, I want to say 81, something like that or whatever, because even Alice Cooper tried to dry out in late 70s, and they put him in a hospital in Bellevue, upstate New York, and it was more of a sanitarium type of situation. So they didn't have an AA program for him either.
Yep, October 4th, is that right? October 4th, 1982 was the first Betty Ford clinic.
Yep. So, I mean, I thought it was 81, but 82. Towards the tail end of that year. That's when it began. So
I love
before that it was like, pump them full of Valium, or whatever, and this, that, and the other.
I loved Bobcat Goldthwait when I was growing up, because the whole police academy thing. The voice that he did, I could never do it justice ever.
Yeah.
But he was
difficult.
Oh, extremely difficult. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Except for him, because
he's the one that did it.
Yeah. He's the one that came up with it. But he had this whole thing is like, he's like, back in my day, he's like, there was no way to come off of drugs. Like back in the 70s or whatever, because he came to, prominence in the 80s.
Right.
Like,
well, Dennis Leary also put it very well as well.
Yeah, well, Bobcat's thing was like, he's like, what am I supposed to do? He's like, Nancy Reagan just say no. He's like, oh, what am I supposed to? He's like, let me call Keith Richards. Hey, Keith, just say no. He's like, what am I supposed to do? Call up my parents? He's like, hi, Mom. I think I'm on fire and I have insects in my brain. He's like, Bobby thinks he's on fire. And his dad's like, again?
Right? Keith Richards.
Keith, just say no.
God bless Keith.
That dude's going to outlive all of us.
That's one son of a bitch. That's one son of a bitch. Oh, my God, dude. I just saw it on Facebook today. They gave him a great little, he was heading towards the van from Edinburgh, because they just played Ireland or whatever, and apparently I guess they're in Scotland right now.
Are the Stones touring right now?
Yes, they are.
Get the fuck out of here.
No, man.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
More power.
Charlie, Ronnie, Mick, Keith. Yeah, man.
More power to those fucking dudes, man.
Yeah,
For
man.
real.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
Just fucking setting the bar. Setting the bar for everyone else to chase.
Keith has always been my hero, dude.
Dude,
as
how long have those guys been a fucking bands now? When did they start?
1962, brother.
And what are they? They're approaching 60 years now.
Oh, it's
as
longer
a band?
than that. Longer than that, man. It's got to be longer than that. Wait a minute.
62.
82.
Almost 70 years? Is that fucking right? So
No. It's got to be 60, maybe 65 years, because Keith is 75.
I mean, so they obviously started when they were in their teens.
I mean, my dad just turned 76 today, and he was born in 42. Keith was born in December of 43, I believe.
So
Keith is exactly a year younger than my father.
So it's now 2018. You subtract the 19 and 62.
Year and a half younger than my father.
And you get 56 years. Setting the bar, man.
That's not bad.
No band has ever been a band for as long as the Stones.
Now, granted, they haven't really... Well, I mean, Blue and Lonesome, their last official release wasn't bad.
What was that? Did you say Blew a Load Some?
Blue, yeah, right. Yeah, Blew a Load Some, yeah, right. Never thought about it that way. That's pretty good, man. I like that.
Because of...
No, Blue and Lonesome.
I had a visit from my good buddy, Josh was here, since we've last had a conversation. Yeah. And Josh is the best. My friend Josh, who was the engineer for my band, is probably the best person at like free associating things like that. Mm-hmm. You know, so if you say, I'm blue and lonesome.
Very quick-witted.
Yeah, he would come up with I blew a lonesome.
Yeah.
You know, he was very, very, very fucking quick. Like probably the fastest, the most like on his toes person I've ever met to make a joke out of something like that wasn't a stand-up comedian.
Fastest gun in the East.
Pretty for a guy who doesn't do stand-up and doesn't have to come back at hecklers, basically. So you get a lot of, as a stand-up comedian, you get a lot of practice coming back at hecklers. A lot of practice.
Oh yeah.
So we'll turn there. For someone who doesn't have that trick in his bag of O tricks, he's pretty quick-witted.
Yeah.
I guess I take a page from him. I touring with that dude for like 10 years, or the better part of 10 years. Getting to watch some of these guys do that kind of work.
Oh yeah, man.
But there's a dude who's fucking super fucking smart, and I swear his dad's in the CIA. He says his dad is not, but okay. So let me give you a lowdown on his dad. So his dad worked for one of the many Fed banks. He worked for the Federal Reserve.
Right.
One of the ones on the East Coast. There are several. He worked at one of the ones on the East Coast, and then retired from the Federal Reserve, and then, get this, as a white man from the States, started teaching yoga to orphans in India. Now, have you ever heard a bigger bullshit story? I tell him all the time, I was like, your dad's in the CIA. He's like, he just doesn't say anything. I'm like, you're not bullshitting me at all, man. Your dad's in the CIA.
You're not gonna bullstein me.
Not gonna bullstein me. So, have you ever heard a bigger bullshit story?
Outlandish.
I know, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's. Yeah.
No, my dad teaches. No, he teaches. He teaches as a white man from the States. Teaches yoga in India. Get the fuck out of my face.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of my face. That's the biggest horseshit story I've ever heard in my life.
Unless he's doing like some kind of promo for Wyndham Hill Variations, fucking new age crap, fucking.
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know either, but I do know that story is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's what he told me, man. And then he doesn't say anything more about it. I was like, your dad works for the CIA.
Well, don't ask, don't tell.
He's not gay.
No, I didn't. Sorry.
He's not even in the military.
I thought that was a different
It's in the
movement,
Federal
man.
Reserve.
It's a social thing, man. Come on, man. We're getting so sensitive, you know. Like, come on, don't ask, don't tell.
No, I was bitching about the recreationally offended earlier. I'm definitely not. I often tell people, you can't offend me, but you're welcome to try. Yeah. Good old Josh.
We
tell
need
you,
John Wayne.
I miss fucking
Now more than ever, we need John Wayne back in this
What?
fucking mentality, this fucking society. We need John Wayne back.
You need John Wayne. You just need for men to be men.
Not John Wayne Gacy.
Men have been beaten down in our society.
Not John Wayne Gacy, but John Wayne.
Men have been beaten down in our society, and I don't have a problem with women trying to, empower themselves. But they're like, well, we want equal pay. Well, do the same fucking jobs. You want equal pay? Do the same fucking job. Women, on average, make less than men for doing the same job. Men and women don't do the same jobs. How many fucking women plumbers do you know? How many fucking women electricians do you know? I mean, come on.
Well,
Granted, I'm sure there's some out there.
it begs the question, though.
But by and large,
Well, not begs
men and
the
women
question.
go into different horseshit.
It always
Women are
reminds me.
nurturers.
I remember watching an episode of Police Squad, which later morphed into Naked
Jesus.
Gun, and it was the doctor or whatever that was doing all these experiments with different things, like for example, the non-graffiti wall or whatever. Like they have people.
Oh,
go
so
through
basically,
graffiti
he
and-
was in relation to the James Bond. He was the Q of Police Squad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I gotcha.
And so he'd always be like, "Okay, Jimmy, next week I'll show you why women can't play professional football." And it's like,
So there's a joke you can't make today. Although there's not a single fucking woman in professional football, still can't make the fucking joke.
yeah, exactly.
Somebody might get their fucking tit all twisted about some
Well,
fucking horseshit
or
that
the other
doesn't
one.
even fucking exist.
Or the other one was in another episode was next week come back and bring in some of those magazines you found underneath your dad's mattress, and I'll be able to analyze those, explain those to you.
Analyze or analyze?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, it's that the whole
I don't know.
the whole feminism thing. I think
Bigotry
is a horseshit thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't have a problem with a woman who wants to, better herself and be more like, because feminism, there's no femininity in feminism anymore. There isn't. How many fucking feminists you see wearing a skirt? Zero.
Yeah.
There's no femininity in feminism.
Yeah, I don't think
anymore.
Rachel Maddow wears a skirt when she's doing the news.
She wears the fuck out of that mustache, though.
Speaking of mustaches,
I'm sorry. I just
speaking of mustaches, I saw a picture of our friend Chris Topher
Christopher.
sporting a mustache.
What?
Yeah.
Was he making porno? No.
No. He was just sporting a mustache.
He's making porno.
No.
Nobody just
no,
grows
no.
a mustache anymore.
No. He was sporting a mustache.
So, okay, so explain this to me. Does the mustache go down past the corners of his mouth? No. That's a no.
Yeah.
That's a no. Like,
Maybe it edges down towards, but not really. He doesn't have the Dwayne Allman walrus going on or nothing like that.
doesn't have the Uncle Frank.
I'm expecting it, though, at any time.
Is he going to start doing the Raleigh fingers? He's going to start waxing the end of that
Yeah,
shit and
right.
twisting it out?
Yeah, right.
I'd like to see that.
Mustache wax.
That was a gimmick, right?
It's just something to do.
Well, it was just...
I don't, it's not a thing. Or
Well,
it could be a thing.
Everything with him is a thing.
Well, no, man. Toph, I love you, man.
Oh, I love that kid, too.
You're my brother forever, man. Even though we don't communicate very much, you're still my brother.
To this day, he's still, he and I were in a band. Well, we were all in a band together for a while. Mm-hmm. But still to this day, he wrote some of the most entertaining stuff I ever played drums to.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved...
Well, he was a drummer. I mean, he
Yeah,
dabbled in it. I mean, he probably still does.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. But to me, he was always a guitar player. But he liked to play around with rhythm.
Yeah.
And I like that about him.
Yeah.
and he would do stuff, and
he understood it.
I don't think
understands it.
Well, he understands it to a point. That's not meant to sound derogatory, although I'm sure it does. No. But he's got these ideas, and he would be doing these things by feel, and I would have to.
No, he's a conductor, man.
And I would have to work out basically the counts for
not
it.
Conductor as in Frank Zappa conductor, but superconductor, like energy.
Oh yeah, I get that.
Oh yeah, dude.
I get that.
Total energy, man. Total energy.
I get that.
That's why we connected way back in the day.
He still from what I understand, he still contacts from time to time our friend Chrissy.
Of course he does.
Always thinking with the little head. Well, not always, but
that's okay.
There was one point where I thought those two were going to get married, but that's neither here nor there.
No,
but Chris,
no way.
Whenever Toph wrote stuff, he wasn't afraid to go outside of your regular normal thing, and right. I always appreciated that about what he was doing. He wasn't right. afraid to try new shit. Right. He wasn't afraid to go outside the whole 4-beat 4-bar thing. Mm-hmm. And I always really dug that about him. Yeah. Now that was in the fucking 90s, so
yeah,
a good 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, man.
But still, I'm sure, as the Orientals say, yes, and I said Orientals, fuck you. As the Orientals say, a leopard doesn't change its spots.
Right.
And I'm sure that he still does things very much in that same vein. And I always liked figuring it out and playing drums to that stuff.
Yeah.
And we had a great time. You and me and Kurt and him.
Oh, yeah.
Dude,
there was a nice window there, when I allowed myself to be in there, which, of course, was very small. Very, very minor window there. It was about 3-4 months.
And I hooked up with Kurt a few times after that, when he got back up to Jersey and started playing with other people. And...
But that was the other thing. I felt like I was out of my depth with you guys. That's why I stepped out, because I knew that I wasn't on the same level.
But that's how you learn, bro. That's how you learn.
I know, but I just didn't feel like I belonged.
But that's how you learn.
You know what I mean?
That's how you learn. You throw yourself. How do you learn to swim? You throw yourself in the deep end of the pool, and then you find your way to the edge.
But you guys are better off with somebody else.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because you don't understand. Like, everybody doesn't understand this. And if you're a new player or a young player, and you're listening to this, take this to heart, because this is a good lesson for everyone to learn. Bands don't just grow up; they grow together.
Right.
And as members of a band, I mean, you're basically on a team. So don't ever look down on someone else in the band and be like, this guy ain't cutting it. We need to get a new guy in there. Don't just say you need to get a new guy in there. Go over and help that motherfucker out. Because as you lift him up and you guys grow together, like, you guys are forming a bond. And that's the incredible thing about bands that people just don't ever understand, is you form a bond with people. Like you're going to war with them, because basically you are, man. It's you against the rest of the fucking world, and everyone takes every fucking opportunity to beat you down, just to beat the fuck out of you, and to make you a lesser person and a lesser being, and to make your whole group of people just a lesser thing altogether. Bands do it to one another because of competition. I mean, it's very fucking cutthroat out there, man. There's a lot of bands. It's a lot of bands competing for very little space at the top of the whole entertainment musical arena.
Right.
And if somebody really wants to be there and they're willing to do the work, by all means, man, fucking help them out, because you're only helping yourself by doing it.
Right.
Now I understand. If you're young, you're just like, fuck this guy, we need to get a guy in who's better. And I understand levels of talent, and I understand that sometimes you have to move on and move away from people. And I get that. But,
see, I cut myself off.
You cut yourself off. Now, I've been in bands I've been in bands with people where basically we just fucking kicked them to the curb. And there was no being diplomatic. There was no being, as tough as I am about saying, we'll grow a pair and be a man and all that shit. At the same time, there are times when you really do need to kind of have a soft heart, and you need to, kind of put your arm around somebody and be like, look, man, it's just not working out. It's not that we don't like you. It's just that we feel like we need to go in a different direction as far as your instrument is concerned.
Yeah.
Which is a hard thing to understand as a young person. As a young person, you know, you feel like you got the world by the balls, and this motherfucker's holding us up. You know,
Right.
Rob Dew is a fine example, and he's already famous, so his name is going to stay.
Yeah.
We were in a band with Rob Dew. If you know who Rob Dew is, it's a very prominent guy with the whole InfoWars thing with Alex out there in Texas. So, but we were in a band with Rob Dew, and at some point he just wasn't cutting it, so we cut him, and it was a very no fuss, no muss kind of thing. We were about to hit the road, and we picked up a different player in his stead. He played bass. We got rid of him and picked up another guy, and like hit the road a week later. Damn, that was Dr. Colin.
Yeah.
Who was in his own right kind of famous a little bit.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Kind of.
I mean, that lasted for a little while, and then you know, after we came back or whatever, and then eventually we got. I think there was another bass player that replaced Colin, because I think Colin opted out.
Yeah, well, Colin just quit. And we got Mr. Elijah.
Right.
Who was a grooving motherfucker.
Oh,
he took us to a different, not just a different level, but a different place altogether.
Yep.
You know, when you change a member of the band like that, you change the entire dynamic. Mm-hmm. And you have to understand that he was, just as a player,
he was a seasoned player, man.
Yeah, I mean, he was on another level from all of us.
Not that Colin wasn't a seasoned player, but no, because he was.
No, but he was. It was a completely different. Like they had different approaches,
different feel, yeah,
much different approaches. Yeah. I mean, there are different races, so I mean,
well,
you know, you come at one thing from like a compositional, classical kind of trained kind of person, and then on the other side, Elijah came from the, you know, kind of like the whole street. I'll pick this shit up and let's play, motherfucker.
Funk.
Yeah, like very funky, very...
I remember having some conversations with Elijah, man, and he used to say, he's like, man, you remind me of me. You know, I'm like, well, get the fuck out of here, man. You know, he's like, no, man, for real. I was like, yeah, you know.
Elijah was a good dude.
No, he's a good soul, man.
And I'm glad that we got a chance.
I hope he's still playing well, and I hope he's still thriving. I don't know what's up with him.
Last I heard, he was a crackhead living in Detroit, but
that's where he's from, I thought.
It's just stories. I don't know how true that is, and that was.
I mean, he was from Detroit.
Every bit of 20 years ago. Yeah, I knew he was from. I knew he was from Michigan.
When he was in Joint Chiefs with Pushkin and Chris and all those guys, man.
Yeah, and Pushkin is famous in his own right now. He's a delegate. He's a state representative in the state of West Virginia.
He's delegate or representative?
What's the fucking difference?
He actually friended me because I sent a friend request.
Get the shit out of here.
Yeah, man.
Dude, I would love to.
I wanted to, through my friend Crystal, of course, because she was friends with him.
Is she friends with him?
Yeah, she's friends with him, and that was the connection. And I made friends with him, and he accepted it. Thank God, you know. Thank you, Mr. Pushkin. I appreciate it.
He's a strange dude, man. I mean,
he's all right, man.
Dude, the first time I ever saw him, there was
Johnny Cash. He has a good sense of country and reggae.
I'm not even talking about music now. I'm just talking about. I mean, we used to hang out and blow smoke with this dude. I mean,
yeah.
You know, I mean, he was in a band called the Joint Chiefs, for fuck's sake.
Yep.
So, you know, we used to hang out and blow smoke with this dude, and then don't think, you know, moved away from there, don't think about nothing, and then like 20 years later, I turn around and here he is with a fucking suit and tie giving a speech in the fucking State House.
Yep.
I'm like, holy shit, that's to say I fucking chiefed up with that dude.
Yep.
Don't mean to tell secrets out of school, but fuck him. He sponsored the fucking marijuana bill, and I mean, the way it looks like, nobody thinks marijuana is any big deal anymore, and we're getting to the point where it's basically going to be legal. It's going to be up to the states, and most states are going to go the direction of, we're gonna make it legal and tax the fuck out of it.
But he's been persistent, man, and goddamn, God bless him for doing that. You know what I mean? Like that's. I'll give him one thing.
I'll give him one thing. He has he has, for a politician, he has a world more integrity than most other politicians that I know of.
You know, sticking to it, dude. You know, because other people would get frustrated, be like, "Oh, fuck this shit. I'm not gonna," you know. and he's had the strength to endure, and that's what I enjoy, and that's what I admire about him. You know, and I wish I had more of that integrity. You know, and
it's not hard to
staying power. You know, I mean,
doesn't. Well, I mean, you believe it or not, I think you have integrity because.
Well, no. I mean, I don't mean that, but I'm just saying, like, you know, I mean, it's a very admirable trait for him to stick to the plan and not get deviated and get distracted and all this.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Many
I'm
people
so guilty of that.
Many people get to a point and sell out and go along to get along, and I get that.
Or you get discouraged and say, "Oh, fuck the system! I'm not doing this shit anymore. God damn it!" You know, and you go back to being the what our friend Damien used to say about Jesse Jackson, stay out of the bushes. You know. You know what I mean? Because that's what I feel like, you know, because I'm back in the bushes, you know, like, because I'm hiding, you know. I don't want to be hiding.
And I keep telling myself, whenever I get myself situated, I'm going to get back in touch with that kid on the regular, which is hard to do whenever I haven't had a regular fucking job. I guess I had a regular fucking job delivering beer, but that, given who I worked for and what the other shit they were into, I don't consider that a regular job. I get paid like shit.
If you're getting paid,
I get treated like shit.
It's a job, dude.
Yeah, but I mean,
it might not be an honest job, but it's a fucking job.
It was.
According to the IRS, you're getting fucking,
that's kind of honest.
You're getting taxes deducted and this, that, and the other. So I mean, you know.
Yeah, it wasn't. The people that I worked for were not wholly on the up and up.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Opinions are like assholes, people. Everyone has one and they all stink.
And apparently corporations are like that too. So.
Well, I mean, corporations now, everyone wants to make you piss. You know, I had to take 2 piss tests for this.
That began in 1984, my friend. Reagan administration. Thank you, Reagan.
Well, no, it wasn't. Believe me. Like we were talking about before, presidents have no say. Presidents are not in control. Presidents are puppets.
The reason
presidents
why,
do what the fuck they're.
But the reason why is because you can always pinpoint. Well, what year did this happen? Oh, it was because he was in office. Oh, that fucking asshole. And that's why that gets made like that, because you have to pinpoint somebody to make a reference to. You know, just like Nostradamus, or just like Shakespeare, or just like Jesus, for that matter. Think about it.
Whoa, you got fucking.
No, think about it, dude. Think about it. You have to pinpoint some asshole. Hitler, Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump. I mean, think about it, dude. Think about all that shit. I just threw out a bunch of names.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. You got to pinpoint some asshole out there to reference something that fucked up that happened during a certain point in time.
Everyone you just threw out there, Hitler included, was a front.
Charles Manson?
Well, I'm talking about political leaders.
No, I know, but I'm just saying in general.
And even Manson, to an extent, said he was listening to John Lennon or whomever, listening to the Beatles, tell them to go out and cut these bitches up. But I mean, everyone you just named there was basically a front man for someone else.
Right.
And although most people don't know that, most people don't care to know that.
Well, they ought to look at it.
You know, everyone is so fast to, compare people to Hitler, especially Trump anymore. So fast to compare people to Hitler is like, hey.
Acting like him.
Who do you think gave Hitler his money? Mm-hmm. If you really want to know how shit works, go figure out how Hitler got his money.
Prescott Bush? Doesn't he have ties to it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's one of them.
And that's great-grandfather Bush, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
That's one of them.
Nobody wants to talk about that shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nobody wants. Exactly. But everybody's a front man. Everybody in the spotlight is a front man for somebody who doesn't want to be in the spotlight.
Right.
This is why people contribute to political campaigns, is because they don't want to be. They don't want to be the guy out there. They don't want to be, when the shit goes sideways and hits the fucking fan, they don't want to be the person that's strung up on a fucking lamppost.
Right.
Well, there's. I mean,
who was the one that put the knife into Julius Caesar? Was it not Brutus?
Well, it was Brutus and about 16 or 17 other people, was it not?
Yeah, but who was the first? Who was the final cut?
Yeah, Brutus.
That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
Think about it.
yeah. That was when political power meant something. That's when...
That's still kind of the same concept.
It's not so much anymore. Not so much anymore. Your politicians and your people who are in the political spotlight are fronts for other people. There's other people that give them their money to do what they do. I mean, these people, you're talking about people who make less than $500,000 a year, who go into the business of government and somehow making less than $500,000 a year end up coming out worth 30, 40, 50, 100 million. So there's some crooked horseshit going on in there.
Right.
Mostly, I would look at it as insider trading, which most of these guys don't get prosecuted for, which they should be, but they aren't. And basically what that is senators and representatives and people in government are in an advantageous position because they understand, or they know before it's made public, who is going to be getting government contracts for anything.
Right.
What private sector companies are going to be getting government contracts. So if you know what private sector company is going to be getting a government contract, basically, in essence, once that information is made public, their stock, if they're a publicly traded company, is going to go up on the stock exchange. So you can buy into those companies before the announcement is made. That the announcement is made, stock goes up. You can either hold onto that stock as worth, that much more, or you can sell it outright for an instant profit. That's one of many ways. I mean, this whole thing with Obama right now, getting a deal from Netflix. I mean, if you look into, campaign contributions and who works for Netflix and what jobs that they were given, maybe say, I don't know, as an ambassador to another country, maybe, and that this whole thing, given the Obamas their own show, is obviously a payback. I mean, this is dirty fucking political horseshit 101, and it's out there for everyone to see.
Right.
But if you are a Democrat and you think that Obama could do no wrong, then you're obviously going to look past all that horseshit.
Right.
People who are Democrats give no scrutiny to Democrats that they like. Same thing with Republicans. Daddy Bush, Reagan are put up on pedestals when there are so much horsecockery that those dudes got into. I don't believe that Reagan knew everything about the whole Iran-Contra. I think that it was set up for him to look bad so that Reagan would get booted and that Bush would step in. I mean, Bush was the head of the fucking CIA before he was.
Oh, yeah.
And, if you go back to 1980 and you look at all the horsecockery.
Even before that.
You look at all the horsecockery that went on behind the scenes in the Republican Party.
Well, he knew how to maneuver things.
Not just that, but, I mean,
he also had
Reagan said he would have nothing to do with George Bush. And then Reagan won the nomination, and then there was some horsecockery that went on, and then, lo and behold, Bush is his VP.
Right-hand man.
Yeah, nominee at the convention. Look into that shit. You want to know how political shit works in this country? Look into why George Bush was named his VP.
Not to be, not to be too diverted or whatever, but Tweedledee and Tweedledum. What was it? One meeting or something like that where Pence and Trump both, got looked at as soon as Trump put down his water bottle. Pence put down his water bottle at the same time. Yeah.
I have no idea about what you're talking
about. Yeah. MSNBC did it, but I mean, whatever.
Well, there you go. That's
no. But I mean, as soon as Trump did it, Pence did it as well. It was like Tweedledee, Tweedledum. It was very strange.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Water bottles.
Some kind of a meeting that they were at. It wasn't a G7. It wasn't a summit meeting or anything like that, but it was something before that or whatever. And it was some kind of a formality or whatever, I think, leading up to that. But Pence mimicked him completely.
Oh, so you're saying that? Well, I mean, Pence obviously has to at least look like a suck ass in public.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand why that has to be. necessarily something that should be looked upon or magnified as, this guy's doing this,
The whole political theater thing is just. If I was a psychologist, that would probably be my area of study and expertise.
Right.
As I would go and I would look at the behavior of these fucking retards.
Right.
And I would break it down for regular fucks.
But I think it's...
In fact, I've considered going back to school to study to do exactly that.
But I think it's to shed light on the fact that Trump always likes to have people that are with him, not against him. So that reiterates the whole fact that the vice president has to act exactly like he does or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I said, Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Okay, well, I have absolutely no idea about what you're speaking, so I can't really say. I've not even heard anything about it. And
okay.
And I mean, was it on the GLP? I mean, was that something that was?
It wasn't on GLP. It was on MSNBC.
Okay, yeah.
Which they manipulate or whatever. So
I'm
anything
sure
on
that television
probably
anything on television is. I don't. It's automatically not trusted by me.
Right.
That's auto propaganda as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
If it's on television, I don't believe it. Believe half of what you hear, none of what you see, or half of what you see, and none of what you hear. Like I don't believe any of it. Right. If it's on television, if it comes from a major news source, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, if it comes from anything that has its own TV channel or radio, whatever, ABC, NBC, CBS, any of the big, any major news like the Associated Press, any of that shit, I don't believe any of it. As far as I'm concerned, that is all propaganda.
Right.
I mean, there's a mountain of paperwork out there that points to the government knowing about extraterrestrial beings and things that are not of this world, or if they are of this world, that they are kept so close. I mean, I was watching a documentary about this guy, and the opening of the documentary was this guy who was flying a C-130, which is one of the bigger birds, for the military, and he is flying in and out of Bagra, which is in Afghanistan,
right,
and flies in, and he's like, when he flies in, they have to do the straight down because it's in a bowl in the middle of the mountains, so it's not like they can kind of glide in. They have to fly straight down and then like land, and lands, and before they even come off the plane, a bunch of Navy and Army intelligence people come in and start saying, okay, your cell phones all need to go away right now. Mm-hmm. There cannot be any pictures. There cannot be any talk. You all have to sign non-disclosure agreements about what's about to go on. This guy talked anyway, and he's in this documentary. He was filmed in front of a window, with backlit so you can't see his face. They alter his voice, and he's like, basically they brought a giant on the plane on a pallet. He's like, as far as we could tell, this guy was about 12 to 16 feet tall, weighed about 14 to 1,500 pounds, and was a giant man. He was easily twice as tall as anybody I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
Any natural person. He was living in the mountains in Afghanistan. And that they sent a group of soldiers up to find this fucker, and they didn't come back. And so they sent another larger group of soldiers up to find him. And when they got there, he was eating the soldiers that they sent up in the first place. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. And they killed the son of a bitch. And they had him on a pallet, which they said he was in the fetal position. The pallet itself was 12 feet by 9 feet, and he was coming off of all sides of it. So they figured that he was 12 to 14 feet tall. His feet were hanging off the end. They were putting up their feet up to his, just to kind of get it. And his feet were easily twice as large as theirs were. An actual, real giant.
Wow.
Which, I mean, there's a lot of talk of, everybody is so quick to discount the Bible nowadays. But there are a lot of Bible stories that actually hold some fucking water.
Right.
A lot of Bible stories. And the more you dig in on this shit, I mean, I was just reading something last night about what they call the cataclysms, and it was in plural. Mm-hmm. So they're talking about basically the end of Atlantis, and then the flood of Noah, which were two different events, but they were the same. And basically what it comes down to is the crust of the earth is not fixed solidly to the rest of the planet, that the crust can move around. Think of a ball bearing inside of a ball bearing. And the lava that exists between the mantle and the crust acts as a lubricant when there gets to be enough of a charge, an electric charge on the planet. Because if you think about it, everything in the solar system has, I don't know how much you know about electricity, but everything in the solar system has an electronic charge. And the more you rotate, like how do you create an electric field is you take something and you rotate it around something else, something that has a conductor, and that creates field. So if you create those fields and you have two different objects that have these fields created, and you rotate those fields around one another, those fields keep building and building and building, and eventually something has to release.
Right.
And they say that release happens on planet Earth every 5 to 12,000 years. And what happens is the lava becomes electronically charged between the mantle and the crust, and that the crust moves independent of the mantle. And if you think about it, so if the planet is spinning,
right,
and you have all of this masses of ice on either ends of the poles. So if you have something that's spinning and one of those things starts to, and that whole thing starts to shift, eventually the spinning is going to move the heaviest parts to the outside, centrifugal force.
Right.
And you're going to end up with those ice caps at the equator.
Right.
Spinning.
Right.
So that happens regularly on this planet. And this was a book that was written in what was it? I think it was called the Adam and Eve story. I don't remember exactly what it was called. I'll try to remember to link it whenever I do the editing on this. But I read this from the CIA website, and that this was classified for like 50 years, and then was very quietly declassified, well, most of it, and then put up on their website. And I was reading it, and I was like, wow. And I had an alternate translation of like the first 3 chapters of Genesis, and like it was fucking deep, and it really made me think. Yeah. So it made me think so much so to the point, and now we're really getting off into the weeds here, but it really made me think about global warming, and maybe they're trying to purposely heat the planet so that the next time we get to a point where the crust is able to shift, that there's not so much. I knew it.
Yeah.
Maybe there's not so much weight in the poles. They're trying to melt the poles so that they don't shift as hard or as fast.
Right.
And that maybe if there is such a thing as global warming, it might be a purposeful thing to keep the cataclysm at a. Because if you think about it, and they say this shift happens in a quarter to a half of a day. So think about how big the planet is, and it's spinning at about 1,000 miles an hour.
Right.
And if suddenly the north and south poles went to the equator, and did that in about 6 to 12 hours, imagine the havoc that would wreak on this planet. Well, because everything, you got to think that, not everything on this planet is nailed down. You've got all the oceans.
Right.
So if you just had, a bubble.
Completely.
If you just had like a little things, like a little globe sitting on your desktop that was in a baggie and that had water around it.
Right.
And the top and the bottom were frozen. Right. And you just suddenly shifted it. I mean, that water would move around inside that baggie a little bit before it slowed down. They say it's about 7 days to get everything. And that the wind moves at supersonic speeds. So you got wind blowing faster than the speed of sound, and you've got water sloshing around the planet, and that most things just don't live through that. True. So I could see why information like that might be kept secret.
Right.
I'm at the point now where I've got to piss like a 10-dick dinosaur. So
probably boring the fuck out of you.
Well, they can always. There's always the stop button and the fast forward button and the next button. So.
And there's a little bit more whiskey in this glass.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely get into more of that shit.
Gonna enjoy that
for shizzle.
God damn it!
All right, so I guess that is the conversation for this week. You can find more about Sonic Bob at his website, which is sonicbob.com.
That's right.
You can find him on Facebook at, what is it, Sonic Bob?
Sonic Bob's Music Corner.
Sonic Bob's Music Corner on Facebook.
Yep.
At some point, we'll get a Patreon page up. If you're listening after that happens, please, by all means, go and look at the Bob and Phil show. Give us some money, please, so that we can start playing music on this cocksucker Forians.
That's right.
We would very much like to be able to play some stuff about which we are speaking, and I don't know. Is there anything else we need to plug?
As much as we talk about music, we want to play it. So, God damn it,
yeah,
please
give us money so we can, please, please.
But thank you all for doing it.
We love your family,
And listen,
and we love your ovaries and your testicles, and most of all, we love your wallet. Give us money.
right.
All right, so that's the end of the conversation for this week. I'm Phil Drummond.
I am Sonic Bob.
And thank you very much for listening. We'll have another one up as soon as we can.
Take care, y'all. All right.